I'm gonna go ahead and keep it a buck and say that Total War Troy is a game that is extremely boring, and it's a game that is riddled with failure, but there could be a promise in that failure. When it comes to Warhammer, I think Warhammer is a fun game. I think it's dumbed down, extremely dumbed down, like entirely dumbed down, but the lore and the gameplay is fun, but again, dumbed down. And when it comes to everything that comes off of Warhammer, because everything that is with Warhammer's success changes everything that goes around Warhammer. So Three Kingdoms got this romance mode that was like fantasy, and now it's dead, making way for a Three Kingdoms fantasy game that nobody asked for, possibly. And now we have Troy, who was like this myth behind the legend, or legend behind the myth, some quasi bullshit like that. And now we have basically full-on fantasy. Now you guys may be thinking to yourselves, well son, are you saying that Total War Troy Mythos is going to be terrible and that you definitely don't like it? No, I'm not saying that at all, because I love the lore and the fantasy elements and the myth elements of ancient Greece, and I love them throughout all of history. I like that kind of stuff. I like the fantasy elements of Warhammer. It's just the shit that comes off of Warhammer that I don't like. I loved Three Kingdoms. I love Lord of the Rings. I like fantasy. So this does not seem like a bad direction. What does seem like a bad direction is that really you have three game modes in this. You have Mythos, you have what we've been getting, which is like a mixture of the two, and then you get like pure historical. Nothing gets added to pure historical. Everything gets removed from pure historical. So I don't know who would ever play that unless they show us a trailer where they added new units and new ways that the campaign map looks like, and like new elements to it that make it interesting instead of just taking things away. If that were the case, then yeah, I would say the historical has something to it. But right now it's just stripped, and the myth behind the legend or whatever, that is a bullshit game mode in my opinion. I definitely did not like it. That's the original Troy, and I played it, and I think it's just boring as all hell. Now Mythos seems like that's where your money's at. That's where everything is going. That is where all these fantasy creatures are going, and new elements and stuff like that. And honestly, I may actually get it for Steam, because I do think that it may have it may have something to give that is unique to Total War, even though it is kind of like a smaller version of Warhammer, kind of like, at least that's the way it feels. Not sure why they didn't do this from the very beginning, but yeah, it definitely feels like Age of Mythology, the older game. It feels like that. I'm a fan of that, so I'm definitely down with it. Honestly, I think that's gonna be a lot of fun in that aspect, but there's still a lot of things that need to be worked out. Like, first of all, the battles between warriors, those need to be reworked entirely. The animations, the combat between units, all that stuff needs to be reworked, because it's garbage right now. It's utter garbage right now. I know mods will make it work, and that's part of the reason that I want to get it on Steam, to get the mods on it. But at the same time, Creative Assembly needs to rework all those battles, because they are extremely janky. You have warriors like aiming and hitting nothing, while other warriors are aiming and hitting nothing. It's just not fun at all. The battles are not fun. Adding monsters is not going to make it any better. So I think that you should definitely go back to the drawing board and make those battles far more interesting, because honestly, I like Troy's campaign map a lot, and I liked all the elements of it. I just didn't like the battles at all. You make the battles a lot more interesting, a lot more dynamic, where the warriors actually have that match combat feel to it, and then at the same time add monsters. You have yourself something there. So I will give it a try, because I am unbiased to either historical or fantasy. I just don't want every Total War game to be derived from fantasy. Honestly, I don't want every Total War game to have a fantasy element, and now they've made Total War Troy into a fantasy game. This is what I'm talking about. And then they killed Three Kingdoms, so that's where my frustration comes into play. But we'll see what happens. This is going to be Sunscape signing off. Take care, guys.